Super Saiyan Vegeta, Dangerous Pride, sets a new standard for Vegeta figures in the SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z figure line from Bandai and Tamashii Nations. He comes from a long line of Bandai producing Vegeta figures, a long awaited update to the 2.0 Vegeta. Oops. It's a long awaited update to the 2.0 Vegeta from SH Figuarts, which dates back to 2016. And so this gives us an idea of what we can expect for the next 10 years of Vegeta figures. I still love the way this figure looks. I hate the way it moves. The recolor version from a few years back, also not a bad looking figure, but did inherit all the articulation limits of the 2.0 body mold, of which there are many. Fast forward to 2025, and we got a hint of what was to come next with the Daima Adult Vegeta, which might just be one of the most articulated figures Bandai has ever made. You can fold him in half, but had a much more limited audience due to the Dragon Ball Daima branding and styling with the round boots and the skinny body. But now it's 2026, we're a couple years off from Daima and starting to get some proper Dragon Ball Z figures again. We got the Games Begin Cell Saga Super Saiyan Goku earlier this year, which is a real mixed bag of design and quality issues that I've only gotten more frustrated with over time, namely his stupid hair falling off and his face not fitting properly. The left bicep on mine is so loose it's behaving like a ball joint. It is not a ball joint, it's a swivel. It could be a ball joint if they wanted to add more articulation, but they did not, yet mine behaves like one because the tolerances are so bad. I really like the aesthetics of this figure. I like some of the engineering choices, but there are some very frustrating quality issues and weird design choices that honestly just make this figure so not fun to handle. Which brings us to the subject of this video. We can see on the front of the box, Bandai Tamashii Nations Dragon Ball Z, holographic Toei sticker, holographic Tamashii Nations quality sticker, designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, Bandai Spirits made in Vietnam, ages 15 and up, choking hazard small parts not for children under 3. He has dynamic movable shoulders, a bunch of side-eye, a big bang attack, some more promo images around the back, cool reference to some old manga art, and a bunch of text about the SH Figuarts brand. It probably says, we kind of used to care about making these good, but we stopped. Alright. And if you can't tell, I'm a little bit salty about this figure. Bandai has earned some enemies this year. The way they handled the manga color Hypothermia edition Goku, and just so many lackluster releases, and the quality bar on these figures is approaching unacceptable quality for any price for me. Let's go ahead and get him out. For accessories, the figure comes with 4 shiny faceplates, a smirking face, a grumpy side-eye face, a gritting teeth, different side-eye face, and a screaming face. And I guess I should say 3 shiny faces, because the neutral one is actually matte finished. Compare that to the smirking face. You can see how much more glossy and reflective this one is. So that's weird. 2 pain in the neck to swap alternate hair sculpts. I love when the neck joint buckles underneath the pressure instead of connecting to the hair. That's a lot of fun. I like when the hair stabs my fingers. It feels really good.
What?
5 pairs of hands, a pair of fists, a pair of charging the final flash hands, a pair of firing the final flash hands, a pair of fighting stance hands, and a pair of flat key blast hands. All the hands you would need, except, of course, for some reason, no thumbs up I'm about to do something really stupid, hand. This one I borrowed from the 2.0, and you might think, well, that works all right. But it doesn't actually snap into place because they changed the peg size. Poorly painted crossed arms, and a pair of Cell Saga style boots with the gold tips. The Vietnam factory info is printed on the bottom of his right foot. I just learned recently that the 4 dots arranged in that diamond pattern indicate that this is a first run of this figure, not a reissue. As a counterexample, this is the second run Boy from the Future Trunks, and you can see it only has 3 dots. And if the text on the bottom of the foot is bothering you, just swap for the Cell Saga shoes, which doesn't have any text on the bottom of the right foot. For size comparisons, you can see in this 3.0, 4.0 era, they've really started to shrink Vegeta quite a bit, which I think is a good thing. That goes back to even the Super Saiyan 4, which was shorter than the 2.0. And here's the old 2.0, just for balancing the shot. The Android Saga Super Saiyan Squad. And I do love how good these 4 look together with the matching Super Saiyan hair color. Not sure why Trunks is so tall. And this is the reissue version. This thigh swivel feels like it's gonna break. You can see it's like... Watch how it springs right here. That shouldn't be doing that. I've seen tons of people break this Trunks at exactly that joint. What are you doing, Bandai? But these 4 look great together. Top 3 Vegeta fight, or top 5? Android 19, and Vegeta's worst day ever, Android 18. And man, they really need to update the androids. I think 16 they could maybe get away with reissuing, but I think 17 and 18 are just really showing their age. Don't really match aesthetically. Almost seem like they're from a different line at this point. And here's Tournament of Power Android 18, which I know it's not the greatest figure, but I kind of like it. And hey, check this out. Look at that double joint elbow range. We'll come back to that later. The blue and yellow squad, we've got the Mafex Tiger Stripe Wolverine and ex-Kokan Quinn Lee. Finally, some more miscellaneous crossover, the Storm Arena Ryu. And Star Wars Black Series, Din Djarin the Mandalorian. Good luck with the new movie, buddy. One of Dragon Ball's strengths, you can easily tell who the character is from the silhouette alone. So let's take a look at that now. And I find that thinking about things like the silhouette can help get you into the mind of the toy designer. They don't start from the action figure silhouette, they start from the character silhouette, and then they have to make cuts and joints. And you can see on the 2.0 here just how these joints interrupt the sculpt on the arm. Everyone knows the bubbly 2.0 Vegeta shoulders, much more cleanly integrated on the new one, and Daima for that matter. You can see how 2.0 used to pinch in a lot at the elbow, even to the point of leaving an opening there. And now the shapes flow together much more smoothly. You might not even know there is a joint there. In my opinion, one of the worst things about this 2.0 hip flap design is how many times it cuts into the silhouette. Look at this waist. There's this corner here, which is the bottom of his armor, this corner here, which is the hip cap, and then another corner down below for the thigh joint. All of that is so much smoother on the newest one, even a little bit smoother on Daima, although Daima does have a bit of a sharp cut into the armor at the bottom. Again, much more streamlined here. Comparing Dangerous Pride to the 2.0, we can see quite a few changes. He's a little bit shorter. His build is much more streamlined. The diaphragm cut through his armor has been reshaped to preserve the silhouette up and down the side. The hair sculpt is tightened up a bit. It's sharper, more angular. Gone are the 2.0 crotch flaps, and you may wonder why he's standing like this with one leg kicked out to the side. They do this with this Vegeta for some reason. I don't know why specifically on their Vegeta mold the leg hinges were always really bad, and they're still bad to this day. They still spring and snap. Comparing to the reissue version, you can see they've matched the colors. Gold is just a little bit more gold, less orangey. Otherwise, they're very similar. They have a similar like off-white kind of gray for the armor and the gloves. And while all of these have the pointed toe shoes, you can see the new one has a much more specific foot shape. There's also a rather unique shape for the back of the heel. I'm not really sure why. Maybe there's some art that shows Vegeta's heel angled in like that, but around the back, again, they reshaped the cut through his armor. And comparing him with Daima Vegeta, you can see the sculpt is all new. Everything is a little bit bulkier. Even the armor, which could be reused, still, again, has a reshaped cut through the torso, around the front, and around the back. It's also engineered differently. Daima had a soft PVC armor, whereas Dangerous Pride has a hard plastic armor. Kind of an interesting choice. So far so good, right? So why so salty in the intro? Let's talk about when the cracks start to show. Quite literally, starting with the obvious one, which I'm sure everybody has seen by now, but the faces don't fit the hair at all. None of them. No matter how many times I shove my fingers against these sharp points, they don't push in all the way, and they leave tiny but very, very obvious, unrefined gaps all around his hairline. One of Vegeta's key features has all these tiny cracks and gaps that you just can't get rid of, and that stinks. They had the same bad fitment on The Games Begin Goku, but there it's not quite as bad because most of the hairline is covered by his bangs. Goku's problem is more so that the bangs fly off if you give them a stern look. Vegeta famously doesn't have any bangs, and so it is just front and center, announcing to everyone, new quality standard just dropped, and it's really low. Too low for this brand, if you ask me. I honestly don't think this is acceptable. And like I said, it's like this on every face on both hair sculpts. Why wasn't it a problem before? Well, you can see with the 2.0 Vegeta and most other Vegeta figures, the front of his hair was painted onto every face. Now that has two problems. One, every paint application on the figure is adding extra cost. Paint application for the hair on every faceplate probably just limits the number of faceplates that Tamashii wants to put with the Vegeta figure. The second problem is if you're Bandai and looking to downgrade your painting quality, well, then you get this problem where, I don't know, the masking or whatever process they use to do this type of paint application is just super sloppy. The hairline is very fuzzy, wiggly, doesn't have a clean point in the center, bleeds over onto his ear. And having this be an issue on this figure is such a shame because Daima Vegeta shares the same faceplate design and did it so well. And did it so well and so cleanly. It's something I distinctly remember praising about this figure when I reviewed it. Just look at how clean and seamless that is. You might say it's helped because it's black hair, while that would definitely help this situation, even though this is black hair, they didn't use that as an excuse to make it sloppy. It's still super sharp and super precise. And just look at it from the side. Look at how like perfectly integrated into his forehead that is. That's awesome. This is perfect. And so it's super frustrating to drop the ball this hard on a figure that is way more important to me, and I think to the Dragon Ball line, the brand, and a much less forgiving design with the blonde hair. Look at how shiny the new faces are. This isn't totally new with Vegeta, but I don't think it's acceptable that faces are just shiny now with this line. And while I have the 2.0 reissue out, look at how nice and matte the face looks, while the new Vegeta is just a glossy, waxy mess. Finally, we talked about Bandai downgrading their paint quality, and what the heck is going on at the neck here. I don't need to say anything. You can see some seam lines on the outside of his arms, which is a little bit unfortunate. A little bit of paint missing at the side of the armor. And then there's some pretty nasty nub marks or something at the top of both of his legs. Fortunately, from top to bottom, that's where most of the visual quality issues end. The gold parts for his armor are a combination of paint at the abdomen and around the back, and then separate molded plastic parts for the shoulder pads, which have this gimmick where they can lift away from the shoulder a little bit, and they can kind of tilt in and out. It maybe helps a little bit with certain poses, like if you want to bring the arm way up or extend it out this way. You can kind of angle the armor. You can use it to kind of hide the gap at the shoulder here. They don't get out of the way quite as much as you'd like for bringing the arm forward, and we'll talk about articulation soon. They did a really nice job matching the painted gold color to the molded plastic gold color, to the point where you maybe wouldn't even notice the difference unless I told you. There's a good sharpness and depth to the ridges. Compare that to kind of softer, shallower detail on the 2.0. Seam lines are decently hidden going down the side of the leg. Not too much else to note. That's probably just a speck of something that will probably come off. Maybe not. But overall, I think it's a shame that the head is such poor quality. The sculpt is excellent. I love like the definition of the shin bone here and the quads. Apart from the gloss, the bad fit at the hairline, the face printing is otherwise good. Nice soft brown lines. I really like the richness of the blue. It almost seems to have some metallic in it. It's hard to say. For articulation, unfortunately, he has this dumbbell hinge once again at the neck, and then a ball joint into the body. The hinge is pre-bent all the way back, so big problem with this figure, number one, barely looks up. 20 degrees maybe. very limited. That's not enough for Dragon Ball figures that need to be crouched over and looking at their opponent. Doesn't look up very much. Can he look down? Seemingly not. And you're going to knock the face off if you push it. So, terrible range at the neck. Tired of it on Dragon Ball figures, Bandai. He does tilt to the side. If you mess with it, you can at least get his ear to his shoulder. And then it swivels around, but the joint makes absolutely everything more of a pain than it needs to be. And it doesn't work. Dynamic movable shoulders are basically the same as Daima Vegeta, but the cap is a different shape. And then as we discussed, the straps on his armor are hard plastic, but have a little extending, swiveling feature here. The arms raise up on the hinge, a little past 90 degrees. They can swivel around. Watch out, the shoulder caps like to get misaligned. And they seem to have a tendency to get scuffed on the hard plastic corner of his armor here. This shoulder strap thing gives you a little bit of play with the line of his shoulders. Like you can raise one up, bring this one out and down. And that's all right. That's not bad. The cap does a good job filling out the armpit when you raise the shoulder up. I think that's part of what the patent is maybe supposed to be about. That's at least one of the things they highlighted on the Goku. But unfortunately, they haven't made the peg down into the torso long enough for the socket to pull out past the armor to give you butterfly range. It comes out a little bit, but that's not nearly enough to bring the arms across the chest in any significant way. You can get a little bit. Just first attempt, not great. Let's see if I mess with it for a minute. If you really yank on it, the goal is to move this pivot point out past the chest. I'm probably going to scuff the inside of the arms trying to do this, but just so you can see, yeah, it really doesn't work, does it? So yeah, you can bring the hands mostly together. If you're doing a final flash pose, however, you're gonna have to raise the arms up a little bit and play with the straps. And that can get the hands mostly touching in the center. This is just harder than it needs to be. Like, this should be able to pop out more compared to Goku. Of course, he has this soft plastic shirt, but he also has a longer ball peg that lets you bring the pivot point way out. Look at where the shoulder is. That's how this is supposed to work. And it works like ridiculously well on Goku. So, 2 points of articulation in, 2 points of articulation that don't move as well as they should. Bicep swivel. I would be worried if that didn't work. At least they're not wobbly and loose like Goku here. That is not a ball joint. It might look like it thinks it's a ball joint. It's not. Double hinge elbow. Watch this. Barely past 90 degrees. Daima Vegeta is about on par with Goku. 2.0. Cell Games Gohan. So we got a neck that can't look up or down. Butterfly joints that actually go back a little bit better than they go forward. Double hinge elbow that's barely getting 90 degrees. And then standard Figuarts ball hinge wrists. Those are fine. The hands are hard to interchange, but his gloves swivel around, which I can't see a reason for. The sculpt is meant to go this way, and it looks weird every other way, but mostly it's annoying because it falls out of place and you have to adjust it. The torso, if you thought Bandai was going to overthink this and do something weird, you'd be correct. It's a slanted ball joint going down into a weird hinge, going down into another ball joint that barely moves. Going forward, it seems like it only wants to go to there, but what's really happening is the top of his abdomen's getting stuck on this ridge in his chest armor. And so if you like pull up and forward, you can get the full range, which is about 30 degrees. Not a ton, but better than what it first seems like, which is like 10 degrees. But it's annoying that it doesn't just articulate smoothly and you have to like force it past getting caught on itself. I don't think it should be designed that way. And Daima Vegeta had the same problem where the inner chest armor was getting caught on the abdomen, and you can see what happened here. It's gotten all sorts of scuffed at the top there, and then barely goes back, maybe 5 degrees, because it's at a weird angle for no reason. It rotates like 5 degrees either direction because of the shape of the cuts, and hard plastic armor. It doesn't tilt side to side at all. 0 degrees side to side. The waist joint is a ball peg going up into a weird hinge, and the ball peg barely has room to pivot. It's not going to stay. That's me just like warping the peg. It's not even moving on there. It does let him twist at the waist, I think. That didn't sound good. It doesn't tilt side to side again. If you really, really force it, you can maybe get 5 degrees out of it, but I feel like I'm going to break it. Going forward, you'd expect it to be good. It's got soft waist, and they took care to put a hinge in there for some reason. But on its own, it gets maybe 20 degrees, plus the upper torso, you're now talking 60 degrees, past 45, so that's not bad. Looks pretty good from the back too. Leaning back, you can see the weird hinge. That's maybe 45 degrees going back, so altogether, it's not bad, but it's nowhere near as good as it should be. Even Daima Vegeta somehow is able to get at least 20 degrees more for some reason. You get pieces that now overlap that shouldn't be overlapping, and so you gotta fidget with it to get it back in place. It's 0 side to side. It's just okay forward and backwards, and none of it works smoothly. The hips are good. Swivel hinges. There's no weird high thigh cut. No hip flaps. The waist is soft. And so without deforming the waist, he kicks up to 90 or just a little past. And then if you squish the waist, you can get 90 and another 30 degrees or so, 120. But I don't like doing that because it does feel like it might damage that waist piece. Again, unlike Daima Vegeta, I don't know why, but the waist, I think, is a lot softer here. But remember, Daima Vegeta can fold himself in half. I don't think this one's going to quite make it. That's as far as I'm comfortable pushing it. What the heck happened? Side to side works well. It's just a hinge. There is actually a ball joint where the hinge meets the hips. The legs in a little bit. This is also a ball joint, but it barely has any range. At least you can bring the legs together completely, which is nice. You could not do that with... You couldn't really do that with the 2.0. Other things you couldn't do with the 2.0. That's the side split. And then the shape of the hip caps is so bad on these 2.0 Vegetas. The front to back kicking is like here. Every time he's doing that pose where he's got his arms crossed and his leg up, it's like maximum ab crunch, twisting at the waist, and all kinds of like photographic trickery to get that to work. Can't really kick back. I mean, you can really force it and you're going to deform the butt sculpt there. Yeah, you can kind of front back split. You're deforming the back by doing that though, and if you leave it like that, it's going to hold that position until you like heat it up and it'll return, hopefully. The thigh swivel's a ball joint. Ball joint doesn't really do much, but it does provide a swivel. I'd like to see more ball joints in the forearms and at the top of the boots. More like how the Naruto figures are set up. A lot of Rebel Tech figures have this. The new Shigaraki from the My Hero line has a really nice ball joint at the boot that lets him get a full 180 degree knee bend. Vegeta is decent with a double jointed knee. No extra help from the boot though, so it gets about 135. That's good for a double joint with no boot articulation, but we know about boot articulation now. There's a joint here anyways. Make it a ball joint and let the boot go back an additional 5 to 10 degrees. And compared to the 2.0, you can see the range is actually slightly less. And something I haven't seen a lot of comments on, but I kind of think the appearance is worse. The kneecap looks strange and square when the knee is bent. There's this big chunk taken out of the top center of the joint. The 2.0 had the open space off to the side, and so it just looks much better from more angles. And I don't know, the back, you can kind of pick your poison. Neither looks amazing, but they did a better job keeping the shape of the back of the legs here, but it definitely cost him some knee bend range. And finally, the ankles. Everybody knows the woes of this unfortunate dumbbell joint ankle that Vegeta was stuck with for 10 years. It mostly does this, which is like the least useful thing for it to do, because you also have the toe joint to go forward. It barely goes down. It's down a little bit, but, you know, dislocates from the leg in doing so. And it doesn't get any tilt whatsoever. And that's been the bane of anybody trying to pose Vegeta on the ground for the last 15 years. Finally, he has the ball hinge ankle with the ball joint going into the boot, and it doesn't point down as much as I expect. I would like it to get the foot parallel to the leg. I think that's really essential for like kicking and flying poses, which, why would you want to do something like that with Dragon Ball figures? I don't know. Then, let's see. Goes up just a little bit The toe hinge can go up to help plant the foot forward position. But finally, we've got some good ankle pivot, and you can get it if you rotate. You can get like almost 90 degrees of ankle pivot. But that's the articulation, and man, yeah, you can tell I'm saltier than normal this review, and this figure has just really disappointed me. Articulation is great in some very specific places and terrible in a lot of places. The neck is unacceptable to me. The elbows, didn't think that was going to be a problem, but we've got to call attention to the elbows now because Bandai forgot how to make double jointed elbows. They seemed to have designed not only this hair exchange, but this face exchange without a human having to actually do this in mind. It's so frustrating. It does not need to be this bad. What was wrong with this? What was wrong with that? And I can tell you one thing that was wrong with this. People were going to customizers and third parties for alternate heads that look better, come in specific forms that Bandai is avoiding for some reason, like Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan, Super Saiyan 2 Goku, base form Vegeta. But you know what, Bandai, come here, let me tell you something. You can completely shut down the third-party head sculpt market if you just make good head sculpts in the first place and release the forms that everyone obviously would like to own. Where's the base form Vegeta that was shown at the Tokyo event last year? Where's Tank Top Trunks with maybe some more alternate faces for Boy from the Future Trunks? Where is an accurate Buu Saga head sculpt for anyone? Where's Future Gohan? Where's adult Gohan in the orange gi, the blue purple gi? And yeah, and I really love how none of the faceplates fit either hair. He has some smudge of something under his lip there. Let's see if that comes off. Nope. How about this smudge on his ear? Oop, that one comes off. Not only is it a pain to swap the heads, it's kind of a pain to swap the faces because they're ultra tight and they don't fit cleanly. I promise I'm pushing this in as hard as I can. And that's just what it looks like. Every time I look at this figure, I find a new speck where it's not supposed to be. That's probably the best fitting face-hair combo so far. Still bad, but not as bad. At least the center of the widow's peak is pretty close. Good luck getting it out, though. Bandai, did you think about how you were supposed to remove these faces? Because pinching behind the ears is all well and good until you realize the only thing holding the ear to the face is this thin little strip of plastic right here. Guess you could grab it from under the chin. Like wiggle it out. I mean, seriously, you can grab it behind the ears, but look, like the ear is deforming, and that seems thin enough that it could tear. One more face to try on the windy hair. Good old Vegeta smirk. Let's see how swapping the crossed arms goes. Let's see, these don't separate. You can see the white paint for his gloves is completely a mess. That isn't connecting for some reason. Come on. All right, I think I actually got it. It does look really good. The sculpt is great, but man, it's really ruined by sloppy paint sloppy molding, and I mean, just frustrating design. It'd be great if I could get these arms back on. So far, so good. Neither of them has become a Games Begin Goku arm. That's good. Okay, well, they're not wobbly. To swap the boots, take a deep breath. And they should pop off of this mushroom peg. Find the correct toe tip boot. And it pops right on. And there you go, gold tip boots. And yeah, altogether, this figure's kind of a box of disappointment for me, I'm sorry to say. I was really looking forward to it, especially after the Daima Vegeta was one of the most articulated Figuarts ever. They took a few steps backwards with this one. They made his neck more annoying, and the quality level is just, I think, unfit for the SH Figuarts line. There's a lot of potential here. The sculpt is great. There's a lot of very good articulation in a few places, close to very good in others, and then just like downright doesn't work, like the neck. The accessories are good for the price. Thumbs up hand might have been cool. I've seen people say he's got too many side-eye faces, but I mean, this is Vegeta's like attitude maxing era, so I'm cool with the side-eye faces. I like a little bit of attitude, especially for Vegeta in this outfit. I was hoping to see that base form Vegeta fairly soon, but I don't know. Now that I have this one, I would hope they might tweak a few things, but I doubt it. I doubt they've really changed anything with the Kind-Hearted Saiyan Goku that's coming out, I think, next month. Yeah, Bandai, we're not on good terms right now. Just a string of too many shockingly bad quality releases. They wouldn't know a top 10 most wanted DBZ character if it poked them in the eye. It's just been the same list for the last, I don't know, 6-7 years. Too many frustrating engineering choices. As it sits, it's at a quality level that isn't acceptable for me for this brand at any price. So many issues front and center with the head sculpt. Really does a lot of damage. Head sculpts are pretty important. Man, honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed for Bandai releasing this, such a high profile release. Trunks was pretty rough. Games Begin Goku was a roller coaster. I still like how flexible he is, but admittedly he is kind of like a hollow, wobbly rubber man and is not super fun to handle. I don't know. This line needs an intervention. Whoever's in charge of the My Hero line, please help. Anyhow, what do you think? How do you feel about the state of Dragon Ball? How do you feel about the SH Figuarts line? Let me know. I am always happy to read long comments. This has been the Art of Action Figures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.